And hello, YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of The Zone TV Movie Entertainment with me, your host, Jonathan, once again bringing you my thoughts and review for tonight's episode of DC's The Flash, Season 8, Episode 16. So before I begin, gotta let you know, I want to take a moment of silence for the victims of yesterday's horrific tragedy that pursued in Texas middle school. So let's take a moment of silence for that, because honestly that was very bad and very tragic as well. So for those families, let's take a moment of silence. Thank you very much for that. So yeah, so let's talk about the Flash, because honestly, this was a pretty interesting episode. Very odd episode. It really felt like an episode of the first season, and I kind of dug it. So anyway, this episode basically Barry, at this point now, he's still worried about Iris, but he's keeping in touch with Nora. Nora says, hey, she's still in the future, so okay, she's cool, she's fine, I guess. I mean, she's somewhere in this, the Steel Force, so there's something that. But we find out she's, still okay in the future. So as long as the timeline hasn't been changed, Barry's not super worried. He'll know he'll get her back. But in the meantime, he decides, he'll kick back a little bit, kind of relax and hang out with the team. They play some Dungeons and Dragons and have some fun until a new meta shows up. Well, not really a meta per se, but a scientist comes around, trying to get some machine that will help him create something that basically absorbs people's youth, I guess, and try to make himself look younger. The guy's got gray hair. He looks like an old guy. He looks like a very old school 90s villain, like literally 90s villain. And he's got the gray hair and everything. So he gets this machine, and then he uses it on the Flash. And the Flash, with his speed combined with this guy's machine, it pretty much starts de-aging, if you will, or aging the Flash. Barry Allen gets pretty much Benjamin Button, if you will, but forward instead of backwards, meaning he starts aging up. Or, we really don't know how old Barry is supposed to be in this time period, but I would say late 20s, early 30s. But he starts aging like rapidly. He starts getting to the point where he starts getting the gray hair. His speed is starting to slow him down. He's starting to get aches in his arms, and bones are starting to feel like he's old and all that. And I thought the effects for that stuff was really, really cool. He starts losing his memory, forgetting people's names, forgetting how he got to one point for another point. It feels like the more he used his speed, the more faster it went to basically make him look older. And man, that looked pretty cool. Seeing Grant Gustin look kind of a little older was kind of cool. I really wish we would have saw him like grandpa, like kind of feel, but I guess not. I guess obviously because it's for the show. But it would have been cool to see that. But he only got a couple of gray hair, little wrinkles here and there, nothing too super major. We did get to see him in one moment at the end where he really went old, but then he went back to normal. So it was just like, okay, cool. But yeah, seeing him in that vulnerable state kind of reminded me of what the first season was. He was clumsy with the speed. He couldn't do anything properly. His speed was super slow. I mean, fast for a normal person, yeah, like 100-something miles per hour instead of going gajillion miles an hour that he does now. But yeah, I thought that stuff looked really cool. And yeah, there was no Iris in this episode. Obviously, no Caitlin either. Caitlin shows up at the end of the season, which sorry, the episode, sorry. But yeah, it was a pretty interesting episode. I believe the actress who plays Sarah Lance directed this episode. So if that's the case, that was pretty cool. I had fun with this episode. Like I said, nothing super villainy, meta power villain came around. He was just a scientist trying to figure out the eternal youth kind of thing, trying to make himself immortal by taking everybody else's, youth and all that stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. And it was a pretty interesting episode. We got to see Captain Singh come back. That was cool. Same actor too. So it was kind of cool seeing him and Joe, have the little, oh, has retirement kind of, kind of thing. Even though he's the chief of police, he's like the head boss, and he's kind of, there just to help out the team. He knows about the Flash, so it was kind of cool to see him bond with Barry and all that. Cecile really was like the main sidekick of this episode because she starts talking about how Barry, has to deal with certain things that's gonna happen in his life, and and pretty much encourage him to pretty much not give up. And he eventually, gets his youth back. So I guess now he's 29, as Chester pulls it out at the end. But yeah, the one thing at the end of this episode that really, really, you had to do that kind of thing was the ending of this episode, where Barry gets a phone call from Caitlin's mother saying that she hasn't seen her since the funeral of Frost. He goes to check on her, see if she's okay, and he finds out what's going on. He finds out, and then we even get a little more information about what Caitlin's been doing. We thought she's trying to like reclone her or something. I guess Caitlin was trying to figure out a way to take her out of the mirror world or a piece of her and try to break her DNA so they can split again, or split herself up to make Killer Frost come back, or Frost. And the look on Barry's face explains it all. It's like if Iris would have done something so bad to the point where he's like, that could be evil. And he snapped. Not in a like, I'm gonna get you kind of thing. He snapped by basically using his lightning, powering up, and destroyed all her research. That pretty much felt like, yeah, he just ruined his only friendship left with from his original Trinity, his Trinity, which was him and Cisco and Caitlin. Yeah, and you see the disappointment face of Caitlin. Like she knew Barry will react. Like, don't do that. It ain't gonna bring her back. Nothing's gonna you do is gonna bring her back. And yeah, he just destroyed all the research. There was one moment where you see Caitlin just look at, I guess, a shirt that she had of Frost, like figuring out what to do next. No idea. Not sure what's gonna happen with Caitlin moving forward, especially now since Daniela Pennebaker is at that point where she can't be on screen. She's too pregnant, which is awesome, and so we probably won't see her until next season if she decides to come back. There's some rumors that she might not, but we'll see what happens. But other than that, pretty cool episode. Looks like Reverse Flash is coming back next week, so that's gonna be interesting. And it looks like he's on Ling On Yu, which is Oliver's jail, so that's cool. So we get to go back to memory lane with the Arrowverse, I guess, what's left of it. But yeah, cool episode. Had a lot of fun with it. I'm excited to see what's gonna happen next. It's a little short break, but that's okay because it hasn't been on a break in a while. So yeah, we're gonna have to wait to see what happens. So leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys thought. Thank you very much, and have a good night.